All right, folks, welcome back to Cheddar, brought to you by HP. Consultancy firm Interbrand, owned by Omnicom, just launched its 2017 Breakthrough Brands Report, something we're very excited about here. The second annual list recognizes companies across the whole globe that are disruptors with potential for growth. Join us now to break it all down is Jez Frampton, the Global Chief Executive Officer, as well as Paula Norambuena.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Chief Communications Officer at the firm. It's great to have both of you join us. Thank you very much for
Great pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with some of your key findings in this report. You like to tout that these are the disruptors, the ones making waves, the ones to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
Jez, let's start with you. What stands out to you about this year's list?
Well, I think, not surprisingly, you see a lot of things around artificial intelligence. It's an area where I think we're all reading about it, hearing about it, seeing about it every single day. One of my favorites, as far as that's concerned, is a company called 30 Seconds to Fly. And what they is basically an artificial intelligent assistant which sorts out all of your business travel. Now, I'm sure my PA might not be quite so pleased about the whole idea, but I think they're a fantastic business. Paula, who was it you were looking at?
The one that stood out was Nexar, actually out of Israel, and they're using AI to work on our apps to avoid collisions, and they're looking at it from vehicle collisions, car, and in New York City, I think very helpful to avoid colliding with each other when we're walking. So we love what they're doing, and I think most of the ones that we're seeing are doing such a great job of making it real. They're not just doing AI, they're actually using it to solve real problems.
Right.
And it's quite interesting, it's not just those, what you might associate, you know, HAL or things like that, you know, these completely formed personalities. It's actually parts of it which are starting, like facial recognition, sound recognition, things like that, which are starting to come together.
Right.
Very interesting.
Now, Interbrand is really known for measuring and monitoring some of the top global legacy brands in the entire world. You've been doing that for many, many years. This is your second year doing this kind of start up, or at least breakthrough. I say startup because a lot of the companies on the list are startups. Away is on there. We see Blue Apron.
Yeah.
So talk to us about why you decided in the second year to continue to do this, and what's your methodology for measuring what a company or a brand is in terms of being a breakthrough?
Well, I think the reason we did it quite simply was because there's so much you can learn from these new companies. And of course, what's happening is that they're changing the way that brands are built. So as a business and a consultancy that works with clients all over the world to help them work out not just how much their brands are worth, but actually how to deploy them in market, it's a really useful thing for us. And actually we found that a lot of our clients around the world were fascinated by what's going on. And there's three things that we're really looking at. The first thing is there a change which is going on? So a behavioral shift, people are buying, using, living their lives in a different way. The second thing is whether or not buzz is being created. So are we hearing lots and lots about it? And the third thing, of course, is that there has to be some connection between the brand and the business.
All right, I want to talk about specifically I believe these are your top three, if not mistaken, Away, Blue Apron, and Glossier. Let's start with Blue Apron. I would argue one of the bigger ones when it comes to name recognition, maybe some of our viewers are familiar with. What is it specifically about Blue Apron that you view as being a significant disruptor in the space, worthy of making your list?
So Blue Apron was actually a feature last year, so they were one of the brands, and from last year to this, they have blown away from a growth metric. So we've been fascinated by not only how they've grown, but they've also seeded the space for others to follow. So while they are located in only small areas, we do see the unique ability for expansion, but they're also solving a real problem. I think people want to live better, they want to have more time to do actually less things is better things. So they've really tapped into something that's really important, and they're delivering beautifully.
Right, and let's get back to the methodology that you mentioned a little bit, because I think what's important is we just had a segment on right before you talking about Away. The entire time we're talking about Away, and the editor at TechCrunch said, look, it's because Away is a modern brand that no longer really exists in the luggage space. So what can legacy brands learn from some of these breakthrough companies on the list in terms of being, what you said, kind of innovative, you know, the way that they're actually doing their business?
That's exactly it. I mean, there's something funny that goes on when you have limited resources, time, and everything else. You know, the pressure cooker effect of being in a startup leads to people doing things differently. Either because they don't have access to the funds or the favors or whatever it might be. That leads to great innovation. And I think a lot that can be learned by big legacy businesses of how do I get there? You know, the fintech world particularly, lots of very interesting things going on there.
Right. So if you are a legacy company, what should you be doing differently when you look at brands like that and they're rising while they're trying to compete against these smaller companies?
Well, I think obviously growth is something that everybody wants to get their hands on right now, and these breakthrough companies are experiencing it every single day. And bigger businesses can learn a lot from the clever ways in which they think about audiences, marketing, positioning, partnerships. All of these different things can lead to a legacy business really being able to do things differently. I think that's what it is more than anything else. What can you learn that might lead you to do something different tomorrow than you did today?
So I would argue there's a lot of the metrics that you all seem to pursue that seem to make sense, specifically funding being one of the large ones. There's another one that struck me personally as being pretty interesting, social media following. And that to me may have some inherent kind of complications with it. We know there's a lot of companies, it's very easy to buy followers on different social media
create
feeds.
them,
We actually have a graphic, I believe our producer Jackie put together about some of the key percentage increases that a lot of these figures, like Lola and Glossy and the others, have increased. Talk to us about the social media following element to this. Why is it so important to consider?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Paola, please do.
For us, actually, buzz was not only social media, it's also how media are responding and how people are talking about it. So it was so much just beyond the followers, it's how they're encouraging others to learn about the brand. So it really was about adoption. So they're growing quickly because more people are knowing about them, talking about them, and therefore becoming advocates. Glossier, I stood in line for 30 minutes to pay for a lip gloss because people are talking about it, and it was something that was really important to get to.
People might be stunned to look at Lola up there. I mean, over 8,000%, 8,600 something percent. That seems like an astronomical number, and that's the social media growth within 1 year, correct?
It's within 7 months.
And so what is something I've now, as of late, realized I see the ads here on the 7 train here in New York City, where I live off of. What is that something that, what do you attribute that success to for a company like that specifically that ranks so high on your list?
I think there's only one reason why social media followings follow. That degree of change is not something that they've done through bots, it's real. And that's because they've got something that people want. People latch on to ideas. It's one of the reasons why we use buzz as one of the 3 key measures, as I said, is what's going on to change people's behavior, how much growth is going on, because growth is an important part of being a breakthrough brand. And then the third thing is the degree to which you're capturing people's attention. Presence is one of the things which is very important nowadays. To be seen as an up-and-coming brand, you need to be creating that sense of excitement around you.
So Cheddar has buzz. We've got growth. What's the third?
And you're about a year old, right?
Right. So what's the third methodology? What's the third metric that you're measuring?
It was change.
And change. So we've changed a lot in the past year. What does Cheddar have to do?
Have you changed the way that people consume?
Absolutely.
We're on the homepage of Twitter right now,
you
folks.
qualify.
So when are we going to be on the Interbrand list? Will it be next year, or how much more? How much more do we have to do as a startup to kind of make it to the list?
I think you guys are doing a great job. By the way, we are opening submissions, so you can submit yourselves.
Hey now.
Great.
Our
Because we
CEO
want
John
brands
Steinberg's doing
to find them, and so put your names down.
Good. All right. Good. Good to know. But no. So my real question too. You're part of Omnicom, which is a $18 billion company, one of the biggest advertising companies in the world.
Yep.
Are these startups able to afford your services? Are any of them clients of yours, where you're helping them get to that point?
Some of these companies really aren't that small when you take a look at their valuations and the kind of funding they're attracting. And of course, one of the things you have to do if you're building a fast-growing company like that is make sure that you're on it where marketing is concerned. So yeah, this absolutely makes sense for Omnicom. And for us as well. I mean, I've been in the company 20 years. We've always been in a position where at one extreme we're working with a startup and the next extreme we're working with biggest companies in the world. And it's one of the things that keeps us fresh and keeps all the companies that we work with fresh too.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your knowledge and your report with us today.
You're
welcome. Thank you.
That was Interbrand CEO and their Chief Communications Officer here on Cheddar. Coming up, Viacom's new plan to ride the cord-cutting wave. What will those plans be? But first, a shakeup at Ford's leadership team.